Hello. That's better. Hi, how's it going? I thought I'd jump in here and do a little bit of an update. I know that you guys haven't heard anything from us for a while, and in the absence of information, it's easy to assume the worst, but in fact, let me just do a quick montage of all the stuff that we've done since the last time we updated. So one thing we did is revisited the fans, which were always a fun mechanic that were cool and interesting. One thing I wanted to do was kind of, I had been talking to Andy Hull, who is one of the guys who made Spelunky, and he was talking about interrelatedness of systems and trying to make everything work with everything else, which is something that I've tried to do. It just occurred to me that a little bit of effort could make the fans like extra cool. So I kind of made these versions of the fans that are carryable and movable, and then I made it so that they launch objects, and that the size of the object really affects whether or not it'll launch. So you can launch little tiny objects like that. Another fun output of this is like you can push the player and objects with like a really strong fan. So if you make a fan really big, you can like stick objects to the wall. It turned out to be a really interesting thing, sort of unexpected outcome. So I look forward to seeing that in a puzzle in the future. Yeah, and just like the fans are really fun when you can walk around with them and you can like launch yourself. You can get all over the place. It's super dope. I don't know. Had a lot of fun with those and just made them good and robust and made them work well, which is super dope. We got some like sort of cantilever kind of stuff, some more like physics things. Started throwing in some random objects like there's no reason for that to be a block. Like I just like the idea that it's like a police car and it fits in with the story and the way things have been going now. Lots and lots of new puzzles that are like actual good legit puzzles that I've tested a bunch. This sort of playful launching is back in a much more useful capacity, and I wanted the clouds and like the use of the clouds to be in the main progression, and we sort of retuned the clouds so they actually work like Mario clouds now. This is like the hub level, and this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but probably you have no idea what's going on. So this is the hub level, which is a repurposed mine that was converted for use as a physics laboratory, and then got sort of weirdly reconfigured. Here's another puzzle. Spoiler alert. I guess this whole thing has spoiler alerts. But the way that the hub is structured now, you sort of come out of these container areas which have whole levels inside them, and you can look back down and see the level that you just saw. We have some really nice tutorialization in here and a good flow that teaches people how to rotate stuff. No spoilers on this puzzle, sort of a chunk of hallway, but after the solution is done, this is kind of what you do. And so you can move through what is now the hub level by finishing these sort of tutorial sections, which are like conceptual gates that once you know how to rotate things, and once you know that there are objects that are not scalable, that are shiny, they allow you to get into these other domes. So now you're down in like this other dome here. You would have descended into it with the scale elevator. In here, this is a whole level that's all about if one object scales, then multiple objects in the world can be tied to the scale of that single object. Kind of a transmission at a distance. And there's a sort of a character who's associated with that in the story who's interested in that as part of their research. Here's kind of the layout of this level as we progress through. A bunch of puzzles, a bunch of cool stuff, sort of story stuff, failed output of tests of this system, a non-scalable object, a puzzle to solve there, some kind of cool platforming stuff based on multi-scaling objects, and some more like kind of advanced boss puzzles that wrap up the end of this section of the level. This is a level where you descend down into the scale device, and so you don't actually have the scale device because you're down inside of the scale device now. And this is kind of where it all started narratively. So you actually get the constituent parts of the scale device. So you get like this particle, which is the scale up particle, and you can see it scales things up in the world by proximity. Some more effects will be nice here. Beams coming off of this that shoot out and hit the non-scalable, or hit the objects as they're being scaled, and that's some way to make it a little bit easier to tell what the radius of the scaling is. But you can see I've got a bunch of puzzles here that I like a lot, that feel really good and feel unique. Like they're not really like puzzles in other games, because it's like you can kind of put this thing down, and then you're free to move about the whole environment. But if you need to bring that with you, which you do throughout the whole level, you have to figure out how to get it through there, and it's sort of working against you as it goes. There's lots of nice little puzzles like this. Yep, variations of other puzzles that we've seen earlier in the game that are made different by using the scaling particle. So this is kind of section 1. You're working your way through this environment, trying to reach a particular goal. This is another nice puzzle that I like a lot that I'm not going to spoil. And then you kind of reach section 2 where you are using the scaling down particle, and then there's a section that uses both, and then you gain a new ability as you come out of the other end of the scaling device, after having been down inside the whole scale gun the whole time, and then you get the gun back and it's a little bit different. And I'm just going to kind of wrap up with like another cool thing that we did. You know, boom. Just sort of breakable objects, right? So, you know, if you see a cracked surface, a cracked stone surface somewhere in the game, there's a way to figure out how to break it, which is cool. So the puzzle count is up to roughly 113, plus or minus, I don't know, 4 or 5, depending on whether or not I cut some things that I think are weak, and whether or not you consider tutorial puzzles to be puzzles. So we're a little bit shy of the 120 that we're aiming for, but we actually have like another 25 puzzles that are kind of floating right now that need a home. So that should get us well over the 120 that I was aiming for with the original vision for the game. And yeah, I don't know, things are going really well in that respect. You can see from this diagram, this is actually a diagram of the entire game, and you can see kind of what version the puzzle is on in each of these areas. And when a puzzle has reached version 5, this is sort of a living document that gets updated fairly often. And when a puzzle gets all green like that, it means it's basically ready for art, and it's been tested multiple times and it flows well. Of course, there's another level of playtesting on top of that that's going to be like having everybody, all the Kickstarter backers, like run through and just hammer on it and really make it super airtight and solid. But what you can see here is how the structure of the game has progressed and how I've sort of seamed everything together, and you can see kind of where we are as far as, you know, the amount of stuff that is done, which is actually quite a lot, and then you can start to see when we're getting off into areas over here where things are kind of red and are under production still right now. And I think that there's actually 2 more small domes that I need to add in here that will be the home for those additional puzzles. But yeah, overall, I mean, as a map of the game, this is pretty good. So I think, you know, you can get a sense of like kind of how far we are and how close we are to having something that we can put in your hands. So that's pretty dope. And you know, most importantly, out of that big puzzle count is this kind of insane improvement in our ability to put puzzles together in the right way. And I feel like this is something that I've been working on for literally years with this game. You know, I have all these puzzles, this sort of raw materials, but getting them to flow together in this kind of like playful garden setting. Like this is an example of a level that's working very well in that regard. Like it's just the right amount of freedom. It sets you up with some sort of puzzles at the beginning here as you work through, teaches you about the core mechanics of this area, what's going to be going on, what to expect, and then it branches out and it just really lets you, you know, go to town at your own pace and discover secrets and find things around every little corner and stuff like that. So that's kind of the most important thing, I guess, as a breakthrough has been getting the design to the point where it kind of where the levels are these amalgamation of kind of the Mario 64 style open world and the more traditional sort of what's required in terms of priming you for puzzles, I guess, maybe that's the right way to put it. But I'm quite happy with how it's coming together. And as you can see from this diagram, there's a lot of green on here, so there's a lot of game. You know, I think if I put someone down in front of it and have them play it and they've never touched the game before, it's 5 or 6 hours maybe to finish all of the content. I think there's, of course, some seaming work that needs love and all the levels need optimization and stuff like that. But yeah, things are going pretty well from that respect. Another thing that we've worked a bunch on over these last few months is field polish. So here is a test environment in which I just put a bunch of really junky geometry, kind of a worst case scenario as far as being able to traverse easily. And I just set us the goal of making it so that you just don't really get hung up on this stuff, right? You can just walk around here, and when it looks like you should just be able to flow over the geometry, then you just flow over the geometry. And that actually turns out to be pretty hard to get working right in Unity. We've tried quite a few different solutions over the years. I've rewritten the character controller a bunch of times. We finally got one that really I feel good about. You know, players in testing, they just don't get hung up on stuff. They don't even notice it anymore, and that's how you know you're doing it right. It's if and when game feel is good, it means that people don't notice it at all, and they just get engaged with the puzzles in the game and the fun stuff and the content that you want them to get engaged with. So that's something that's been really good that we've managed to do, that I'm really happy about. I mean, it doesn't look like much, right? But the game is not being made in Unreal with an engine where the character controller has been field tested over, you know, high competitive multiplayer shooters that have gone on for generations and generations, or like Gears of War and all this kind of stuff, right? So you're kind of on your own to make it feel good and make it feel right, and that was super duper important to me, so I did that. Alright, so here we're in level 1, which is a level that I'm really happy with the flow of. I think it's working really well. The way that it kind of starts linear and then branches out and kind of has that nice open feel where there's lots of secrets hidden around in various corners. But here is a different way of approaching unlocking the various doors that fits in well with the story stuff that I've been doing. So this is a robot arm that retracts, and I need to stand here and it will scan me and it will see how many particles I've collected. And if it finds that I've collected the correct number of particles, then it like and then lets me through. And I'll do some, you know, fancier effects for this, obviously, but that's kind of the new way that unlocking doors works, and I'm quite happy with it, and it fits with the new narrative that I've been working on, so that's really cool and nice. Another thing that we've spent a fair amount of time on getting really right is the mounting code. So in Scale, and I've talked about this before, we have this sort of unique problem where things can be any size, but you also want to be able to jump on them. So you know, you want to be able to jump on this thing even if it's like quite small, and it's very easy to like accidentally jump over and miss the jump and stuff like that. So we have this sort of mounting system that basically, if you're touching an object or if you're close enough to it, you hit the button and it just jumps you right onto the center of the thing. And that makes it so that you can do stuff like this and then proceed with the puzzle, and that's all good. We've made a bunch of improvements to that mounting code so that it functions a lot better, and it also uses a parabola, so essentially it's not really noticeable. Again, it's one of those game feel things that if you don't notice it, that's good. Players in testing are not noticing it, they just jump and they end up where they wanted to be. And that's what we were looking for. And in addition to that, we also added sort of mounting points. So if, as a designer, I see someone missing a jump a bunch of times, I can hand edit a point onto it that will sort of attract the player and put them exactly where they need to be if they're in the general ballpark of where I want them to be. So that is a cool thing that we did, and it feels really good, and it's just another one of those little things that adds up and makes the game feel super duper better. You notice the character's not animated right now. I have new animations, and I need to go through and redo all the blend trees and stuff like that. So I was messing around with some fun story stuff, so like this would be almost like a listening post where somebody's been recording the various characters of the game, and you can discover these hidden, like a snail shell or something like that.
I can think of at least 100 reasons why it's a terrible idea to actually build the thing.
So actually, I have some friends of mine who are helping me out with like temporary voice acting.
But I can't be a part of something like that. You know, if all the money's spent.
Of course they're going to use it.
If you make it small, you can't really hear it, and if you make it large, you can hear it and understand what's going on. So you can see that this could maybe be used as like part of a puzzle,
Well,
right?
you can guess who's hitting it.
Oh, God damn it.
How do you think they'll use it?
So anyway, that's a little fun story test that I'm working through right now as a story delivery mechanism. And you can imagine finding this like recording device inside this, which is inside a lamp or a snail shell or something that's hidden in the environment, and then you find your way out of it, and you can listen to that recording. And yeah, so we also did a bunch of work on the carrying and rotation code, other sort of, less interesting things, under the hood system stuff. Finally solved the problem of splinching with scalable objects, so you can have multiple scalable objects in a row that when they scale up, they don't cause like crazy physics behaviors. Eddie came up with a great solution for that. Yeah, anyway, so that's pretty much what's been going on. That's kind of the story, like the positive story of the last few months that you haven't heard from us and what's been going on. And I kind of just wanted to take a minute and talk about, in addition to the time that it takes to do these updates, which actually is a surprisingly large amount if you actually look at the work blocks it takes me to do them. I want to take a little bit of time to just talk about why I sort of made the executive decision to go dark for a little while. And I said that that was the story of we've been doing, but left on the cutting room floor of that story is all of like the hardship and all the times when I'm scared and I'm worried and I don't know what's going on, and I don't know what to do. I have these design problems, and production problems and technology problems, and it's just bad, right? And there's times when things are really dark and it's really difficult, and it's like I don't know how we're going to solve this, and there are these times where it feels hopeless or it feels impossible, and certainly the people who love me and are close to me are asking me questions like what's going on, like is this are you doing the right thing here and stuff like that. And I'm not complaining, like that's kind of the job at some level, right? I think I've described to students multiple times that the process of trying to become a game designer or of being a game designer is to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is to say living in this place where you just don't know what is going on yet, right? But having faith that you'll be able to figure it out. You don't know what the solution is. And you just have to sort of be comfortable with the process and live in it. And I mean, I get up every day. I do my workout, I get up at like 6:30 or 7. I do my workout, I come, I sit down, and I just bang out work. I mean, that's all I do. And that's one of the reasons why I sort of made the decision to stop updating for a while. But the other one that I wanted to talk about that's really interesting is that I had this theory, and it's sort of proven to be true. Actually, it has been proven to be true. It's almost impossible for me to write these updates without spinning it into a positive story, and that type of positive distortion can be really bad for creativity and for solving design problems and for planning and for lots of different things, because sometimes things just aren't going well. Like sometimes they're just not going super great, and like that has to be okay. And I was just feeling like maybe in doing really consistent updates, I'm sort of casting this reality distortion field over what I'm doing, and that has actually been kind of justified by what we've gotten done, how much better what we have now is than we had when I stopped, took a break from updating. So yeah, there's been struggle, there's been misery, there's been days where I was just feeling really, really bad about things and discomfort, but the game is getting good now. I'm really happy with how it's going, and I'm sure that some folks are going to be really unhappy with that. But I feel like it's what everyone wants, what you want, what I want is for the game to get done. And it's just a fact that the game is going to get done a lot faster and a lot better if I'm not updating super frequently. And that's why I kind of made the executive decision to just kind of go dark for a while. And I'm sorry if that made you worried. And I'm sorry if it made you feel bad and made you feel unheard. But we'll have the game in your hands very soon. And you can see kind of from this diagram that there's a lot of game here now. And there's lots of different areas of the game to play through, and there's lots of stuff here for you to enjoy. And I've done a fair amount of testing with just random people who have no particular stake or don't know anything about the game. So, these areas are being prepared for you to enjoy, and I'm working really hard on it. Yeah, and that's just kind of what I wanted to say. I think we're going to continue to run a little bit dark. I think that we're going to reach a point very soon where you guys are going to be much, much more involved. And as much as you want to be involved at this point still, hopefully you still are excited about the game. I'm still really excited to get the game in your hands, and I'm especially excited now that I feel like things are coming together. But it is important to note that what has caused a big change in how much things are coming together and how fast is just like being able to live with things not going well for a while and not having to spin a story. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is different for other people, and it's definitely different for different types of games. Like, I think that, you know, if you look at like a roguelike or something, you know, it's easier to share what you're doing and get feedback on it quickly and iterate that way. But for some of this stuff, it just requires time to breathe, just requires time to think about what's going on and how things should be put together, and to deep think about puzzles and just go deep on it and not worry about, or rather not have this like internal story kind of affecting the design of the game. So yeah, I just wanted to say I love you guys. I'm sorry if I worried you. I'm sorry if we worried you by going dark for a while. We're going to continue to be a little bit dark, but I think that the next update should be something that you're going to be really happy with. And yeah, I don't know. I'm thrilled to get it into everybody's hands, and we're really going to need your help to like smash on the game and make it airtight for a broader release. So I'm just, yeah, that's how things are going. And fear not, we have been working extremely hard this entire time. Yeah, so I'm just going to say goodbye for now, and you're awesome, and thank you once again for your patience. And yeah.